What's shaking, cats and kittens? I'm Rob Lee from Getting to the Truth in This Art. And this podcast is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Bazaar. Bazaar is a gift shop for those seeking the strange and unusual. Got morbid curiosity? Got an interest in natural history? Bazaar's got you covered. Bazaar specializes in antique medical equipment, jewelry, prints, funerary antiques, and many other morbid gifts. The inventory is ever-changing. I'm wearing a great death's head moth pin, and I'm enjoying this hand-poured candle called Overgrown Cemetery. It's great. It has the studio smelling awesome. Head on over to 3534 Chestnut Avenue in Baltimore, it's in that Hamden neighborhood, and see what they got to offer at Bazaar. Tell them Rob Lee sent you. Welcome to Getting to the Truth in This Art. I am your host, Rob Lee, and today's guest is a visual artist, live painter, arts educator, and muralist. Originally from Detroit, Michigan, we have Chris Batten. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, what's up? Definitely delighted to be here, honored to be on the podcast, and looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, I'm glad we were talking a little bit before we got started with this. I was like, how'd you find me? It's like, I don't know. I'm out there. I'm tapped in. My ear's dirty because I got it to the streets. Actually, it's covered in paint because I got it to the art street. Yeah, let's go. But yeah, it's cool to it's always interesting to talk to people who have moved in because they have a different relationship to Baltimore, which ultimately this pod is about. So we'll kind of talk about that a little bit, but let's get into it. I gave that 30, maybe 40, because I get further out, that 40,000 foot view of what your creative outlet is and what your creative interest is. Describe your work for us.
So I actually function in two worlds. I'm an abstract painter and a representational painter, which some artists do that, a lot don't. It is a risky thing to do in terms of the art world, but I use one to inform the other. So I'll work on a series of abstract paintings and then use the discoveries from those to influence my representational paintings. So my work is about political issues, just everyday life. Mm-hmm. A little bit of everything, so. Yeah.
For those who are uninitiated, speak more on I understand abstract a little bit more, but speak on the representational side. Is that more of like the opposite, the antithesis of abstract, or like how would you describe that?
So I primarily paint people in my representational work. So gotcha. A lot of paintings. I think all of my representational paintings have a person in them. So, okay. Yeah. Well.
I like when you talk to someone that's like a black painter or what have you. It's like, yeah, your browns are great. you get the browns right because not everybody does, man. Look at some old anime or pop art. You're like,
oh yeah, man.
It's just one shade. It's not great, brother. So you touched on it's like you touched on maybe some of the political things. I noticed that in reading over some of your stuff and looking at some of your stuff, one, straight up, your work is great. I dig it. So in it, you touched on, it has like that political thing there. It has just kind of what's on your mind at times or what have you, how you want to depict it. Speak more on what ideas, concerns, or objectives have motivated your work.
So, in the past few years, I'll start this way. So I started studying martial arts when I was 8, and my dad is my teacher. Okay. So I've been doing it now for, I guess, going on 31 years. I've been studying martial arts, and there's just a lot of philosophy that I've gained from doing martial arts, a lot of understanding of not only myself, but the world outside of myself. And what I began to think about over the past few years is realizing that this notion of fighting is something that extends beyond just like physical combat. It's like, it's something that you can do not only physically, but conceptually. And the human condition puts us in a situation where we all have to fight for or against something. So my work is about that, is chronicling the fights that we all either choose to take on, or in some cases are circumstantially forced to take on. So that's been my focus for the past few years. Like, just to give you an example, I started a series a couple of years ago called No Play Fighting.
Yeah.
And in that series, I chronicled people who I felt were fighters, and kind of the fights that they had chosen to lead. So I'm an educator. So I painted a couple of educators. I painted an artist friend of mine who does a lot of activism outside of his practice. I went to a Baltimore ceasefire rally, which was like incredible. I mean, man, it was incredible. So I painted a scene from that. I mean, just different fights that I see people leading, and I just want people to get from the work that you're not in this alone. We all have these things to contend with. So
what was the martial art, by the way?
I study a style called Goatee. It's pretty rare. It's a Chinese style, but it's a grappling style. But whereas in something like jujitsu, the ground is the first resort. For us, it's last resort.
Oh,
so
okay,
yeah,
gotcha. Maybe a conversation for a later time. So I'll skip ahead because I don't want to leave that point about the fight being a theme, right? So what's your take on the importance, or describe the importance of checking in to oneself and to know that we're always fighting, whether it be with ourselves or outside or any of those things? Why is it important to always check in with yourself to know that there is a fight? Don't think that because things feel sweet that there is not a fight, that we shouldn't be complacent. We should kind of be alert of things. What are your thoughts around that?
I think introspection is necessary. And the funny thing about that is I feel like these times have really forced that on people. With us being isolated so much as we have been for the past, year or so. It's kind of forcing us to look inside, which is a good thing. But I just think it's a necessity for growth. Like, it's the only way you're gonna grow if you fight those, say, negative tendencies that you've had to, say, I don't know, sabotage opportunities in your life, for example. Like you have to fight against those things, or you're not gonna grow. And I mean, this is just my personal opinion, but I feel like the purpose of life is for us to grow, to not be the same as we were the day before. So I think it's very important to recognize that, and just don't allow yourself to grow complacent, because essentially the world's not going to let you be complacent. I mean, that's what I've learned.
I think I go back on to the in a very general overview sense of some of the things we talk about in like therapy, and you have the F's, fight, flight, and there are some other ones. One might be a 4-letter word, another one might be used different ways, and I think the primal ones are fight or flight, and flight is fear, and you're running away for whatever reason. But I think for me, my natural inclination is to fight, and because I'm always thinking, and it's like, nah, that's a way to do this. That's a way to get past this. That's a way to get past this challenge. And I think when you're able to see that and understand that, it enables you to navigate through life in a different way. And the reason that I think it's important to touch on that is because, as you touched on, it's been better part of the last year. You're sitting there in your own juices, just doing, and there's been a lot of things that have happened, especially for people that look like you and me over the last year.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, and I think for the people that got out there, especially just being out there and not posting about it, but really being about it, they're fighting. They're fighting in spite of a pandemic. They're fighting in spite of just everything sucks. We don't know what's happening, and they're just fighting for what's right, and that's important to know why you're doing it and what you're doing. So stepping back, you touched on representation on abstract. So what other maybe artistic movements or artists maybe have had an influence on you or that you admire?
So I mean, the list is like miles long, but I'll try to keep this like kind of concise here. So I say the painter that I'm looking at the most now is Jenny Saville.
Okay.
And she's entered a space that I would like to enter in terms of my practice. And I feel like her paintings, and I'm putting that in air quotes,
okay,
exist in a space where they're between representation and abstraction. Mm-hmm. They're also between drawing and painting. And I know this is kind of like
I'm looking at some of her work right now.
Petty language, yeah. But I think she's in a space right now that I think is incredible and is somewhere that I want to be. So I've been looking at her work consistently for probably about the last 15 years, but where it's taken off in the last, I'd say about 3 or 4 years is just incredible to me. Also, I draw a lot of influence from Charles White, the late Charles White, Aaron Douglas, who I've been looking at a lot lately. Amy Sherald is a hero of mine as well. Let me see. Trying to think of like older school painters, Anders Zorn, John Singer Sargent.
Yeah.
Are painters that I really love and admire in terms of their skill. Another kind of low-key American painter is Frank Dovenick, who I look at a lot. Henry Ossawa Tanner. Yeah, like I said, I could go on and on. I'll stop there.
I'm just taking down notes right here. I'm trying to be, not a Philistine here. So, because one of the things I've noticed recently that I had an interview with a jazz musician, and he made the distinction to say that my influences aren't only in my genre or don't only play my instrument. And I think that that's a key thing. Like, I'm still trying to get over the notion that podcasting is actually an art form, and that's a conversation for a different time. But outside of painters, do you have any musical influences, or is music a part of what you're doing? Like when you're doing your work, are you listening to anything, and what's it kind of in that space for you?
So I'm a huge jazz head. So that also influences me in a lot of ways. So when I got my undergraduate degree, my thesis was on the improvisational aspects of painting,
okay,
in relation to the improvisational aspects of jazz. So like I'm really into jazz, and specifically I listen to a lot of Coltrane, Wes Montgomery, and Pat Metheny.
Okay.
Those are like my tops. But I mean, I have a huge jazz collection. I mean, I listen to classical music. I listen to hip hop, of course. I got some bluegrass. I got a little bit of everything.
We got to trade notes. I've recently, I have the record player, and I got a fair amount of vinyl for the holidays. I want to be the angry man of podcasts. I want to be like the podcast equivalent of Charles Mingus. I'm working on cultivating mass. I just had to get my hair to grow back, but I want to just run up on people, but be really good at what I do, but also run up on people. So that's the thing. And also I have a similar temperament. So it's a thing. So that's great. Because I think it's multiple things. It's when we get siloed and we only look at this kind of monolithic, we do this one thing and that's all it is. It's like, there got to be other things that influence you. Like,
that sounds right.
I'm really into street art and pop art because it connects to these other kind of like pop culture, these other things that I've seen in other spaces, I'm like, okay, cool. And when someone has those kind of sensibilities, and it may be something that looks like and again, I'm a novice when it comes to describing any of this stuff, but it comes to something that looks like, oh, this is really traditional. This is like gallery oriented. This person is super refined. They're trained artists, all of this stuff. They went to art school, all of that. But you see that sensibility in there. It's like, all right, I can have a beer with you. I can rock with you.
Yeah.
And that's what I look for sometimes. And I think it shows that kind of carryover that this person is an observer. And when you describe like the music, like this is what you're into, I dig it. And it has to have some reflection in the work that you're doing. I think it has that classical sense to it, and it's black. So in speaking of that, and speaking of kind of art in a general space, visual art in a general space, what do you think are the key elements for good composition?
That's a really, really good question.
It's a ball buster. It comes out of nowhere, doesn't it?
Wow. I mean, I guess I can only speak to that in terms of my practice. Like for me, the way that I manipulate color plays, I feel like the most important role in terms of how I arrange compositions. Controlling the intensity of color, like what colors I'm using, where they are on the canvas, I think is the most important thing for me. But yeah, I mean, there are formulas for this actually, that I guess follow or sometimes do, sometimes don't. I mean, there's like the golden ratio and all of that stuff. I mean, but yeah, I think for me, the most significant factor that I use to arrange compositions is how I place color.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. As I'm looking at the few, I will not show them to you. The few paintings that I've done when I thought I wanted to drift back into it, I was one of those like young kids that, hey, you got glasses, you like to draw all the time. And it's like, hey, let's work on these murals. And I didn't paint anything for like 20 years maybe. And then just came back to it. And I had this goal of trying to do like, what is it? An 8x14 size canvas or something, like, or maybe 11x14 size canvas, like once a month. I had that goal and just stuff that I was thinking of. And I got through about half of the year, and then I moved and I didn't have any of my resources. So I was just like, all right, I guess I'll just be drawing. But I'm looking at those, and that is, I understand based on what you were saying in looking at my own stuff, and it's nowhere near like anyone's like professional thing, but I can see that the importance of what I was attempting to do was in color. It was just this color represents something, and from the most basic marketing sense, right? I was a marketing person, and yellow means this, green means that, Pantone, and just that's how it's expressed in the stuff that I tried to do and the feelings and such that I tried to convey. So yeah, what draws you to painting more than maybe other mediums, maybe sculpting or something along those lines? What draws you to painting more than that?
So for me, like, and this is funny, like I spend way more time painting than I do drawing, even though my practice is kind of split between the two. But back in the day, I used to draw like way more than I painted. And I thought painting was weak. Like I just thought, like there's a French artist, Jean-Auguste Dominique Anges. I can never say his last name correctly, but he held that opinion. So he was known mostly for his drawings, but he did these incredible paintings. But he just felt like painting is an easier mechanism for hiding mistakes, and so I think I kind of felt the same way. And it wasn't until I was in undergrad and one of my mentors, he's an illustrator, Joseph Daniel Fiedler. He's also like a really incredible painter. And when I saw the stuff he was making, it just like made me wanna paint. And yeah, I think there's so much that you can do with color. There's so much you can do with the way that the paint is applied. And that's something that I started to explore when I was in grad school. Like I never really thought about those things until I got to grad school and my professor did lectures on that. But like there's something that paint does to the viewer when it drips, or something that it does when it's clumped on, or when it's spread really thinly, or and I had never explored those things. And like now I'm finding a lot of joy in exploring like different ways of applying paint. And it can do a lot of things. It can suggest a lot of things. And I think that's why I'm drawn more to painting now.
I got 2 questions, and then I have the challenging question. I hit this one in there. You don't even have this one. I'm going to ask you early. You don't have any like weird food allergies, right? Because I got a question for you. That's going to be it.
I do not. No, I don't. All right, as far as I know, anyway.
We good then. I'll save that one for you for later. That's the Baltimore question. But 2 of the Baltimore questions. For you, real quick. What would be? What's your this icebreaker thing? What's your do you have an unusual talent? And if so, what would it be? Can you juggle? Can you break dance? Like what is it?
Like I'm a mean shower singer.
Okay. Just Luther in the shower.
And then also, but no, seriously. So I used to when I was 5, my uncle introduced me to steel tip darts. And so I'm like an expert darter. Like I used to be like nationally rated.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that's kind of like a hidden talent. I love shooting darts. So
okay, more things to talk about. I got a dartboard for my birthday last year.
Oh, nice.
In the studio with me, and
nice.
I went to Dallas for a wrestling show, and my buddies, they left me because they wanted to watch a movie. They wanted to see Spider-Man, and I already seen it, and so we had like a layover like period of time. So I just went to a bar, and I just like played darts for like 2 hours, and I was like, yeah. I don't know if you watch baseball, but whenever there's like a smooth like Caribbean pitcher, he has the hat cocked to the angle. Oh yeah. And I was throwing it like I was in like a Dominican pitcher. I was like, all right, I'm a little bit too cool with this. I want to hit somebody. So there's that. So you've been here. How long have you lived in Baltimore?
5 going on 6 years. So yeah, I moved here in August of 2015.
Okay, so you came at a very interesting time in this.
Yes. Yes.
So what would you say is maybe, let's say 2 to 3 interesting traits about art in Baltimore that you've noticed in being here for the last 5-6 years?
Like I like the sense of community here. Like people are like artists here are just really cool, like very approachable, like, like there aren't very many people walking around with their noses in the air, like, yeah, it's like
put my nose up.
And I like that, that's one thing that I've become particularly fond of since I've been here. Also, like, I mean, there are just like artists that are like really, really innovative here, like people just doing things that I've like never seen before, and I come from a pretty large art scene in Detroit. And I've seen some things here I've never seen before. I mean, just like very interesting and inspiring things in terms of creativity here. And then last, I would say, I like the way, I think it's interesting how people are turning these what I would consider to be unconventional spaces into gallery spaces, like, like their homes, or, they're opening up parts of their home as galleries or things like that. Like, I think that's amazing too,
Like Waller, right?
Yeah. I mean, or there's this other gallery that I went to. There's Waller. There's this one called Blue Door, Gallery Blue Door. That's like that. There's a few others that I've kind of like stumbled into, and I think that's awesome.
Golden codes be damned. We're getting this art out here. All right. So now here's the ball buster question. This is the one that might get you kicked out of Baltimore, man. I'm sorry. I got to do it. You know, I like, it's like that scene from American Gangster when he's like, look, when you come here, you got to let me know before you come across that bridge. That's the way I treat it. You come across the inner harbor, I don't know how you're going to get here. All right. So, your chicken box. What is on your chicken box? What are 3 things that's in it? I understand you got the fries, you got the chicken, obviously. What goes on your chicken in fries?
Now, I'm gonna be honest. It was my students who put me up on this, because first when I saw them eating it, I was like, "This is a no-go." Like, where I come from, we don't do ketchup on chicken, but I tried it. No, here's the thing: I tried the salt, pepper, and ketchup, and I actually like it. I will say, I finally got the guts to try it, and it's pretty good. So yeah, I can rock with it. Okay,
you know, you got the answer right. You know, me, I personally do not do mine that way. I'm a heathen. I'm atypical. It's like that part of, I think when they talk about like Atlanta or something like that, it's like there's some weirdos in Atlanta. I'm in that part of Baltimore. It's like I do hot sauce and Western fries. I don't do all the rest of that stuff.
See, that's where I come from in Detroit. Yeah, that's what we do. We do hot sauce. So yeah, I was like, when I first saw that, I'm like, why are you eating ketchup on chicken? But it's like, it's actually pretty good. It's actually pretty good though.
Yeah, you know? I mean, if you go further down, this is how you like. I went to Morgan, right, and there was a fair amount of people from the DMV, as they call it. I don't really call it that, but a fair amount of people in the area, and then you have people from like up north. And the way you would find out who was who, not based on accent and things like that, you would find out what they put on their hot sauce. So like it was a spot over there in Northwood. They would have mambo sauce, hot sauce, ketchup. And then occasionally they would have like pork fried rice. I was like, the New Yorkers are eating this pork fried rice. That's who's here for that. I was like, just give me hot sauce. Give me Louisiana hot sauce, and we are all set. So that's all the questions I got. Anything that you want to shamelessly plug, your site, where can they find you on social media, all of that good stuff?
So my website is cbatten.com. So that's C as in Charlie, BATTEN.com. And then my Instagram handle is at cbattenart. So that's all one word. So yeah, other than that, I'm super excited because I just got juried into New American Painting. So I just want to put that out there.
Congrats.
I'm super geeked about that. So yeah, I think that issue will come out at the beginning of June. It's the South issue number 154, I think is the name of it. So look out for that.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, that's it.
So I want to thank you again for coming on this podcast. This has been a treat. Yeah,
man. Like I say, I can't thank you enough for having me. You know, I really enjoy, talking about art and yeah, just being a part of what you're doing, man. It's an honor. So.
Much appreciated. So for Christopher Batten, Chris Batten, I am Rob Lee saying that there is art in and around Baltimore. You just got to look for it.